Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Equine family. This is Town Hall number 44. It's the 21st of January 2024. And I'm joined by my lovely colleagues, Marek and Fansmaker.
Hi everyone. Sorry, no camera from me today, but I'm still here. It's not AI.
Yes, well, that would be an interesting addition. I don't think I would be able to substitute you in any way, though, Marek. All right. As is the custom, we'll give a few minutes for people to start trickling in. Hi, Eric Ritter. Nice to see you here as always. Let's have a look around here. Interesting questions for AMA today. It's a quiet town hall today. So we'll be starting in a minute. All right, without further ado, we'll start with the content of our town hall. So we'll be covering the usual flow of content. I'll start with the visuals and progress on the visual side. Nick will be sharing an update on the development side. Marek will share some updates on marketing, and we'll go through some AMA questions. So on the visual side, first of all, we have a fully functional mid-race UI. We got to see a demo. I wish I could share it. I actually didn't keep a recording of that version. But as soon as I have one that is pretty, I will share that before even the next town hall. But what that has is basically it shows three different dynamic components within the race. One is a mini map, which shows the kind of shape of the map and where the first race is, or sorry, the first horse is in that progress. One is the live ranking, and one is the 2D progress bar, which kind of shows start to finish and dots that indicate basically where each horse is, whether it's on the outside, inside, and whether it's forward or back. We found, for example, one of the specific parameters for the live ranking is that the initial period should have a bit of a freeze. So the first, say, for example, 100 meters or half a furlong or 1 furlong, we can set this to whichever parameter we need, but needs to have a bit of a pause where no rankings are set until past that point. Otherwise, the initial shuffle would have just way too much changing basically every single frame. So we've set this parameter to minimize that action, and it does work. All three of these are working well. Now that this part is complete, the immediate next step is to bring all of the race sequences together, which we've explained, I think, in the last town hall, to make them into one full sequence and under one comprehensive logic. There are more steps beyond this. Once you have it all into one sequence, we're going to have to hash out the individual, let's say, points that need to be done. There is still that bug on the 3D visualization happening a bit faster than the actual race. Actually, it was slower, if I remember right, but either or. But that bug will be hashed after we have that sequence all together. It's actually a Unity-specific bug for the most part. On the game design, even though I don't have a slide for it, I understand Craig's already done actually with almost all of the 4-year-old races, which we won't actually need until the 3rd season of racing. And we're taking a break from the race schedule or the detailed race schedule, even though there's only 5-year-old and 6+. But we're taking a short break from that, going to some other priorities and coming back to this. But that's what we have on the visuals and game design side. And on the development side, Nick, please.
Yeah, on the development side, it exactly what I said might happen. So we're meeting a lot of little issues that make the app hard to integrate. So my full stack dev Kaio on the app side is basically 100% of the time just trying to integrate everything and finding tiny bugs. Those are integration bugs, so it's basically slight differences between what we expect to receive in the app, so basically in the website, and what actually happens on the server. So that was documented in a way that should have prevented those kind of errors, but obviously we're humans and some mistakes were made and some things didn't happen the way we thought. And so on the blockchain server aspect, there was a memory leak in CTL that caused us problem. It was not per se an equine bug. It's the library itself that builds transactions that had a bug that basically if the server stayed open for too long, at some point it just started not working in a way it's not kind of clear what is breaking. So that took us a while to figure out. Now there's a fix for the library, and so we put that in. Not exactly an equine problem, but it definitely caused us to waste some time trying to figure out what was going on. Then the get races query was extremely slow in practice. So it sounded good on paper, but when we used it, it turned out that even if you were trying to get only the races where you had a horse in it or something, it would be literally like a minute or two to just get 2 or 3 races where your horses were entered in. So that made absolutely no sense that's unacceptable basically for users to wait so long. So we figured out a clever way where the indexer, which in 5 seconds eats every block of the blockchain and looks for specific information. So we had our indexer just grab any information related to our smart contract address to keep an up-to-date record of which horses are in the smart contract, which horses are not in the smart contract anymore, and keep that in the database directly as information. And that allows us to get the races and get the races status super quickly, because basically we always have it on hand on the database instead of trying to pull the blockchain and the current status of this smart contract and all its transactions every time that somebody wanted to get anything. Seems obvious after the fact, obviously, but yeah, so we're doing that. There was a tiny bug in the login transaction that once put in the UI, it wouldn't behave as we thought it would, and it would prevent us from logging in. So we're fixing that. The problem, obviously, that was done correctly a year ago or a year and a half ago when we opened the social release, but since then we migrated it to the main server, the Oracle server, and it had to change language. So it changed from JavaScript to PureScript, and we introduced a bug, and now we fixed it. And the last one is rollback handling. So I think we talked about that a few times through the town halls, but on Cardano, there's a lot of forking and rollback that happen after a few confirmations, like after 1 or 2 or 3 confirmations. But after that, there's no more rollbacks and forking. Like the Cardano blockchain becomes extremely stable after a few blocks. But the code actually has to live with the fact that if you try to go block per block, there's going to be a few forks and a few rollbacks. And there was an issue with that where it would slow down the server and it would prevent it from doing its job correctly. And so we're trying to do something that's more robust so that we suffer less from rollbacks, either by making the server a tiny bit less reactive, so waiting a few more confirmations before acting on it, or just being way more robust in the code where it can actually suffer those rollbacks correctly and just live through them. So it was actually a very painful 2 weeks where a lot of the time was spent just trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. But definitely coming together and going forward, but it didn't feel great. That's the dev report this week. Huh?
We've made the steps. Progress was made in that sense, though, that those bugs that needed to be quashed have been quashed.
Yeah, obviously it's progress. It's just progress in something I didn't like. You don't always expect to have those things, but when they happen, it's just, yeah, you have to go through them. Obviously, it's doesn't feel great as progress, but you have to do it.
Yeah. What's next, Nick? Hoping that I know we have one bug on the front end side. That's
it's going to be Groundhog Day, so I'm going to say, hey, the moment that we get everything of that rolling, we can finally get a full race done through the UI, at least for us. So as devs, me and Kaio should be able to get a race through the whole UI. So get the horses in, get the nominations done, gates assigned. The race will be simulated, and the race results the horses should be put in transaction with the race results, and we could get our horses back and get our prize money. So the whole workflow should be doable through the UI. Again, that should be.
We did also send, I think, if I remember right, we sent 4 horses to a race, but that was a 3-year-old race where we sent 2-year-olds into.
Yeah, they got filtered out at the nomination stage.
So that worked.
Yeah. But that was now we're gonna send 2-year-old and 2-year-old races and get the simulation up.
All right. Thanks for the update.
That's it for dev. More of a churn through it kind of 2 weeks, but yeah.
Well, progress is progress, and what needs to be done needs to be done. So as long as we have that out of the way and we continue the next steps, we are closer to the release, step by step. All right, over to marketing. Mark, what do we have? I've seen some excitement on the Invitational. You're muted, by the way.
Sorry, that makes it harder to communicate if I'm muted. Yeah, so we focus on Invitational. We close the submissions. We have a full set of 32 racers this time. So thank you everyone for your entries. It's gonna be an exciting one. The plan is that we'll live stream on January 28th. We'll have the typical change in, or more recent typical change in laps between each round. So quarterfinal 1, semifinal 2, and final 3 laps with the traditional prize fund of 1,000 ADA for the top 3 horses. And then if you go to the next page, I think we have all the horses that qualified, so people can check People can check later if they want to make sure that they are there. And yeah, that's mostly it. So that will be the next weekend, and then obviously the month will end. So we'll start some fun activities for a month ahead. We've been discussing a few things with Rachel, who is finally back after an amazing break in Australia, and we are very happy to have her back with us.
Absolutely. I see you have some hidden messages here. Somebody's asking, can I beta test? Yes, soon. Yeah, but it's great to see this turn up. It's really nice to see you guys active here. All right. So I assume no more updates from the marketing side. Very happy to have Rachel back. We actually have a full team back in at work. You might have seen that the artists have not been working much. We've actually kind of put their work on hold. We could keep on churning more skins, but at this stage, we think it just might make the most sense to just focus on what we're working on. And they're still available when we have more things that we need to do while we're working on the scenes. Otherwise, we have all of our devs on board and active, which is the main group, I would say. And also, the game guide that I showed you guys snippets of has already been commissioned to our own actually graphics designers. We're gonna do an external job, but we realized we have artists who are already working on our content, so it just makes the most sense that they do it since they're already familiar with all of our branding guidelines and all that stuff. Anyhow, so that's already in place and ongoing. Now, AMA, this is a question for Nick, I would say. It's about the Ledger Connect Kit infiltration.
Yeah, I'm reading the question. After the Ledger Connect Kit, I read about the Ledger Live, basically the Ledger app. I know that it was collecting like all the personal information of people, which is really shitty, but I didn't know
there was an issue with maybe you missed it. It was quite a big for a day. We quickly fixed it.
Yeah, so stolen amount $610,000 happened on 14th of December last year, so basically just a month ago. Many crypto websites, Sushi Swap, Revoke Cash. Okay, so it's the connector on the website.
I guess the question here is it the best practice to use a hot wallet to avoid this, or are we solving a security problem with another, maybe bigger security problem?
Yeah, I would not advise to just use a hot wallet instead. And basically, how would you? Well, okay. If you could guarantee that, let's say Trezor or another hard wallet was just safer than Ledger. I mean, now Ledger had this one thing that they fixed, right? So it doesn't mean that they're suddenly completely unreliable. But let's say you take for granted Ledger is just bad. Okay, they messed up. They stole personal information. Maybe they're not that reliable. Well, then what you would do is you take your seed phrase and you restore it in a different hard wallet, like Trezor, somebody else that has a great sterling reputation until they mess up. But nothing is 100% safe, so you just want the safest option that doesn't make your life impossible. So you would just buy a Trezor, you restore your Ledger seed phrase in the Trezor. You could restore that as a hot wallet, but then you'd have the softness of a soft wallet where you can get just your passkey stolen or your password stolen. It's not safer to just suddenly not use a hardware wallet. The principle is that hardware wallets are just safer. Obviously, when there's a hack going on and somebody publishes a Connect kit with a backdoor in it and a lot of people get taken, but it looks dumb, but it's still the best idea. Like, it's as if somebody published a new version of Nami wallet that steals your passkeys. I mean, then Nami would look super dumb. But that or Eternal or any wallet, like every update. If you want to get paranoid and you want to get into computer security aspect of things, every update is potentially malicious. You have no idea. Like you don't look at the code. You don't know what developer did what. So in an open source project, somebody could put in bad code, and if the peer review is done incorrectly, nobody would notice. And then you put a hack, or you put a man in the middle or a backdoor inside a wallet app, and people get stolen from. But it doesn't. So yeah, it's just technically what you could do. What paranoid people do is they don't update their apps, and they keep on a version that was reputed safe and that nobody got stolen from. And when there's an update, they wait for people to update. They wait to see if people get taken from all they have, and if they don't, after a little while, they update to a slightly better version. So you're basically lagging behind a few versions of every app to wait so that people are trailblazers in front of you and they get into trouble. But there's no perfectly safe way to do anything. So the hardware wallet is still a very much better way to do your crypto transactions. So yeah, the other aspect of this that's not wrong is you could have a hot wallet where you keep a small amount of ADA, whatever you need to do day-to-day transactions, let's say. And that's the hot wallet that you use. It's like having cash in your pocket, right? Let's say you own, for some reason, you have $150,000. You won't have that in your pocket, right? Most of that is in the bank or in this safety deposit box somewhere. So in your pockets, you'll keep $500 or $200 or something, just to do. Let's say you're going to buy something, then you're going to have that amount in your pockets, but nothing else. So if you get mugged, you just lose that money. You don't lose everything. And so the safety from the hardware wallet comes from not interacting with apps directly ever, basically. Still interacts with your wallet app. So you still have your wallet app to be wary of. But you just do hardware wallet to hot wallet, and then you use your hot wallet to do everything. So that's
I was going to say, I think it's sorry if I interrupted you, Nick. I think what you just explained, I think, is actually a very practical compromise, which I think a lot of people in crypto in general do, is they keep a cold wallet for their most valuables, but then if they take a reasonable compromise or risk by keeping, let's say, a hot wallet which they use for day-to-day operations, which might have fewer, let's say, things. And I think the challenge here is we wouldn't really want to recommend people to use, for example, a hot wallet for all of their equine horses. But if you want to take that risk versus the convenience, or for the convenience of being able to very quickly, let's say, operate, etc., that's for the user to make that compromise. Our job is to make it possible to use the hardware wallet to maximize the security possible.
Yeah, there is a question of when you want to interact with equine, do you want to move all your horses to your hot wallet? I would say, first of all, only move your horses that you want to race with all the time. If you want to keep a hot wallet, I'm not advising you to literally do that, but if that's what you want to do, I would keep only your horses that are meant to race 5 times a day in that hot wallet. Then all your horses that are for breeding, you keep in your cold wallet. And then if you're paranoid and you're scared of getting taken for your hot wallet, you could keep more than one hot wallet and split your horses amongst them. You could still get all of them hacked, but I mean, it makes it a bit more difficult. But on principle, I would say don't move your horses out of your hardware wallet.
And we'll keep an eye on how the user experience pans out. If once things get rolling and we see that people have, for example, a certain challenge or user experience because they're using hardware wallets and they find it so difficult, we will then see what the users need and what the users want. If there are certain quality of life additions, for example, we'll have to weigh the cost of developing them versus how much the users actually want them. We already went through the thought process and discussion of, for example, what it would need to chain a bunch of entries. It's not really trivial. It's not very basic to do so, but we're still interested in these quality of life, let's say, improvements, and see what we can do to make it easier for users or more practical for users to enter, for example, multiple races. I even had this idea, Nick, and I didn't get to share it with you earlier, but just as I remember now, of whether it would be practical for users even to say, for an instance race, they want to enter their horse 5 times. Same horse, same race, 5 times, only on the condition that the horse only races in 5 separate instances, as long as there are enough other horses to participate. I wonder whether that's like a good idea or not. Might be interesting. People might say there's just one race that I really like, and they want to race in 5 different versions or iterations of it with different horses. And like we don't support this off the bat right now, but it would be an interesting, let's say, maybe possible quality of life addition as well. Only possible with virtual horses, obviously. Okay, there's 2 more questions in AMA. One that's written here. Actually, not really a question, more a request, but close to internal testing, some sneaky game footage during the town hall would be great to see. Well, I had that UI thing ready, but it's not the latest version, and I have a slightly better one that I saw, but did not have recorded. So I kind of don't want to show the older one now. I'd rather just wait for the one next, which actually looks even better because it's going to have the actual race behind it. The one we had a cube in the middle, but still showed all of the UI elements. But I'd rather you see the UI elements with the horses running. That's probably the best version. Yeah, and one more question I got from Discord is, will race rewards, and this is from DVNC, will race rewards exclusively be a redistribution of entry fees? Or are you looking at ways to allow businesses/organizations to sponsor or advertise in certain races to increase the prize pool? To use an example, like JPEG Store, I can imagine a very short logo pop just before racing starts, as well as digital signage in the finish line shot. Also stuff like this race is brought to you by Minswap, etc., etc. I think we lost FenceMaker, but we got another FenceMaker. Hello. So yeah, this question about sponsorship is something we're definitely interested in, and we're already preparing ourselves for. We want to build in interfaces so that even embedding, let's say, sponsor graphics and logos into the scene, we want this to become something that our marketing team can do even without the developers eventually, so that we can have that happen. And we're also interested in, again, eventually, not immediately, but eventually, a decentralized option for this so that people can actually sponsor races and name them. And this is something that's also actually already in the racing industry. Even for the smaller races, I would say, which are very affordable to sponsor, you can actually name a race, whatever name you want. And this is a very basic example. But then for feature races and stuff like that, allowing prize pools in exchange for, or prize pool additions, basically, in addition, or pot prizes, in addition to or in exchange for brand recognition. I think it's an obvious, I think, thing to aim for, and it's something we already have in plans, and we have places for that. We already have the signs on the racetrack. There's other places to show that, even on the saddle cloth and places like that. So there's a lot of options, really. They are exciting. Obviously, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, because for this to be interesting for sponsors, and that includes other projects on Cardano or elsewhere, the platform needs to be live and active, but that's coming eventually. So this is in the real game, will there be special races from time to time for horses with certain total stat ranges? Well, the whole race schedule is a big part of the game, and the race schedule is designed or crafted in a way to allow for an optimal gaming experience where people have all kinds of options to explore their horses, and a wide variety of class-specific races, allowance races, etc., and the handicapping to go with it. So I think it cannot be stated that the game is the race schedule. It's very, very important. in addition to the race engine, right, which is for people to figure out. There's a question: when is the most optimistic and pessimistic release date of the game? Most optimistic, I would say, end of Q1. Most optimistic. Most pessimistic, never. Well, that's literally the most pessimistic answer. If you want to ask for that. If you want to say from a development timeline point of view, well, we're not really trying to fool anyone by saying we are already ahead of most of the, let's say, development tasks. There are a lot of things at the end that need to be tied, but there are no major, let's say, components aside from getting the DevOps server side of things running fully well, the front end and the other servers playing well, and the racing scene, which is still slightly lagging behind, but we've made some very good momentum, and I think that's only going to improve going forward. So I think the horizon is a few months. Hopefully I don't make this estimate wrong as we've done in the past. But yeah, that's my best answer to this question. And this also answers when we'll be able to see some gameplay. There have been some sneak peeks here and there of gameplay. They get better and better. So I think very soon we'll be seeing actual full racing sequences where we can share, even if they're not fully polished. We understand that one of the things the community wants is to see more, even if it's not polished. And we're happy to entertain that. Earlier, we had a much more conservative approach, saying we'll save the most polished things for like a really nice presentation. But we've recognized that the community actually values seeing even the not so polished ones, especially the close community. I'm not talking big Twitter campaigns, but I'm talking within our community and town hall events, etc. I think people are hungry to see even the not so polished, let's say, parts. So we'll be sharing those as we go. And I believe this is the last of questions. I haven't seen any in the chat either. Thank you so much for your attendance. Oh, okay, this got plugged in, nice. And again. So thank you so much for your questions and for tuning in. We appreciate your time as always and your attention. Our next town is going to be in 2 weeks, but before that, or next weekend, we'll also have the invitation is running. So please join us. Whether your horse is joining or not, we would be happy to see you there. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, and see you in the next event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Signing out.